Yes. Greeting all. It's my pleasure introducing Niveda. Today we have a resource person from Canada, and yes, it is great pleasure inviting and resource person today for Niveda, and she is very dynamic and very young and energetic. She is from Canada. She is working as one second, sorry. Okay, good. I hope everyone joined. Almost half of it joined now. I don't want to take Niveda's time now. Good evening, Niveda. Welcome to the webinar, the Salute course in webinar. And we are very happy to invite you for this session today, DBT. And Niveda is a former student as alumni of Loyola College. And she's from 2011-2013 batch master's. Then now she's working in Canada in a government service as using especially DBT is very effective in Canada. Without taking much of a time, I just hand over the session to Niveda, and at the end of the session, I will be able to brief her. When I'm briefing, I'll explain, and you'll also understand what kind of work she does in the Canada. And over to you, Niveda. Without taking much further time, now over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I personally have to thank NPS and MSSW for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Good evening, everybody. So today we are going to talk about dialectical behavior therapy. Some of you might have heard about DBT, and some of you, it could be a newer thing for you. So today we are going to talk majorly about basics of DBT, and we'll see how effective it is in school setting. All right, so my name is Nivedita Krishnan, and I'm a DBT therapist here. So I've been running a DBT program for almost 2 years now in a school setting, and before that I was working in a different setting in a correctional facility. So I was also running a smaller DBT program there. All right, so I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to figure out something here. Okay, so I'll just open this and. Krishnan, and I'm a MSW and the RSW. RSW is a registered social worker here. And what exactly is DBT? So DBT is dialectical behavior therapy. So DBT is a well-researched program, and it is for people who experience, various kind of disorders, especially emotions, relationship, impulsive behavior, thoughts about self and identity, family dynamics. So all these are more common among borderline personality disorder. If you take all this, like they have problem with their emotions, they have problem with relationship, they are very impulsive in their behavior, and they are more self-centered, and there is a problem in family dynamics. Like majority of DBT, you can find there is a problem in family dynamics. So what is dialectics? Like dialectics could be a new word for everybody here. Like even when I started learning DBT, dialectic was a new word. So like when you see this picture here, some of them, would jump in and see those two faces, or some of them would just see the cup there. Like a lot of you, you would have seen this picture already. It's just an optical illusion. Just so this, like this two picture, like how they explain. Right, there's two different things in just one picture. Just because you see the two faces, it doesn't mean that the cup doesn't exist. Just because you see the cup, it doesn't mean the face doesn't exist. Just like that, dialectics means like two different things, they exist, they coexist together. All right. So you can see this little thing here. So like when you see from the other side, it says the orange thing is. The orange shadow is true. Some of them, we could assume that the blue thing is true, but it is not the same, right? Like the truth is entirely different. Two opposite ideas can be true at the same time, and when it joins together, when we consider it together, and it can give us a different view of thinking. So that is all about dialectic. In simple words, there is more than one way to think about a situation, and there is more than one way to solve a problem. History of DBT. DBT was originally developed by Dr. Marsha Linehan. She is a social worker, and her colleagues in 1980s to treat borderline personality disorder. So DBT is a form of CBT. There's a lot of principles in DBT that's been taken from CBT. CBT alone was not quite effective in treating borderline personality disorder, and that is the reason they have found this DBT program. So when I talk about DBT, you like, if you know CBT already, you can kind of relate it together. You know, like some of the principles in DBT would talk about CBT. So we have some assumptions in DBT. Like, what are assumptions? You know, like before you start the therapeutic relationship with your client, or before you know what DBT is, you know, before you start this therapy, you have to know, you know, these are the assumptions in DBT. DBT incorporates a philosophical process called dialectics. We saw what dialectics is already. Dialectics is based on a concept that everything is composed of opposite, and change occurs when there is a dialogue between opposite forces, or more academic terms, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, right? So the opposite things, when they come together, there could be a newer truth or a newer thing. I'm just stressing on dialectics so much because we have to understand dialectics in order to do the DBT. So the three basic assumptions in DBT: all things are interconnected. We know that already. You know, like all things in this world are interconnected. DBT is not anything about philosophy, or it's not talking about anything, you know, spiritual. It's just, you know, like we know that all things are interconnected, like environmentally, if we think in a holistic concept. And change is constant and inevitable. We know that already. And opposites can be integrated to form a closer approximation of the truth. That we saw already. So we know all these things already, but why DBT? You know, when I started DBT program, or when I started learning DBT, it was quite hard, you know, like it's like, okay, what is this? Like, I know it's all interconnected. I know change is inevitable. We know everything, but as a therapist, we don't sometimes apply these things on our own life. DBT in different settings. So basically, DBT could be, you know, practiced in different settings. There is an adult DBT program. There is youth DBT program. The only place we don't use DBT is on kids, but there are bits and pieces from DBT that you can use it on kids too. But you cannot run a program with kids. That is quite hard. DBT can be practiced in different settings. Majorly, DBT is very effective in school settings, because when we saw all those problem areas like emotional regulation, relationship, impulsivity, all these are like common things that exist in adolescence. So if DBT is majorly practiced in school, as it is considered as a evidence-based treatment for emotional regulation. DBT is also effective in treating adults who have borderline personality disorder or any kind of emotional regulation problems like anxiety disorder, binge eating, or any kind of eating disorders. DBT is effective treatment for people who have difficulty in controlling their behaviors. DBT aims at replace problem behavior with skillful behavior. So how we replace problem behavior with skillful behavior? So DBT will teach you a lot of skills that could be helpful in replacing your problem behavior with skills. Why apply DBT in schools? So I already spoke about this, like, you know, with adolescent, there is a lot of problem, you know, emotionally difficult situation. They go through this emotional turmoil all the time. Like as adolescents, we ourselves would have been on the same road. We would have, you know, have all these emotions coming through. We have no idea what we should do. So, you know, where could adolescent use these skills? Alcohol and drug abuse, relationship with peer, family, or romantic, with boyfriend, girlfriends, any relationship, self-harming behavior. You could see, you know, a lot of adolescent, you know, when they're impulsive, when they want something, there is a lot of self-harming. Suicidal behavior. bullying and victimization, very common in schools. Antisocial behavior, because if the emotions are not valid, it becomes antisocial. So antisocial behavior. Academic pressure, that's quite common, I guess. So if your clients have all these conditions like alcohol, drug abuse, relationship with your family, like all these things, then DBT could be really effective. That's what it means. Biosocial theory. So what is biosocial theory? What, like when I talked about dialectics, it's like two different things. When they come together, they give us a truth, right? That was the meaning of dialectic. But then what is dialectical behavior therapy? So in dialectical behavior therapy, dialectics means two different things, right? Emotional sensitivity plus invalidating environment. For example, if you have a youth who is very sensitive to his emotions, or like who cannot control his anger, or some kind of things, and if there is an invalidating environment, if the environment is not saying it's okay, the classic example of invalidating environment is younger generation male, like boys, when they cry at home, sometimes parents could be like, oh, men don't cry, men don't do these things. So these kind of situations, they think, okay, men should not cry, so what else I should do? So my anger is directed towards something else. So that's where you get chronic emotional dysregulation. So domestic violence, reckless driving, substance abuse, this could also be a result of the example what I said you, but it could be anything. For if you think like for example, like LGBTQ community, if you take them, there's a lot of emotions that they go through, but if they get invalidating environment, if it is not supported by their environment in the sense, it is not just parents, it's just peers, and it's relationship, it's everybody as a society. If they're not supported very well, there's a chronic emotional dysregulation. So there's a lot of suicidal behavior, lot of self-harm among LGBTQ community that we know already. So that is called the biosocial theory, basically the biology, that is, emotional dysregulation, like they're already very sensitive, that is their biology. And social is, invalidating environment. So that equals to chronic emotional dysregulation. Goals of DBT, goals are very difficult to set up. Those who are in a therapeutics, setup would already know that. What are goals? When we start working with our clients, we often tell our clients, okay, what do you want to achieve? What is your goal? So we start working with them, based on their goals. Some clients would be like, okay, I'm really angry. I want to manage my anger. Some clients would be like, okay, I'm anxious. I cannot go in crowds. I cannot talk to people. I want to manage that. So that is another goal. But in DBT, we are not concentrating in those things. When your client comes to you and say, I am angry, I want to manage my anger, you're not going to teach your client, count numbers from 1 to 100, think about different colors. That is not about DBT, right? Sometimes clients would be like, I don't have any goals. So what do you do with your client? That is a question, right? So it is going to be a biggest challenge. The only one goal that we have in DBT is create a life that is worth living. That is what we wanted to do for our clients. We want to create that environment. We wanted to give that skills to our client that makes their life that is worth living. And how do you do that, right? So it is like a hierarchical order, right? So when a client comes to you for DBT, sometimes they'll have like a life-threatening behavior. They could be suicidal, they could be self-harming, reckless driving, substance abuse. So all these are life-threatening behavior. So first you wanted to concentrate on that, right? Okay, so you are angry, and what do you do when you get angry? I drive, I domestic violence, substance abuse, anything. I'm sorry. I think I heard somebody. Anyways, so life-threatening behaviors. So you have to decrease that first. And the next one is decrease therapy interfering behavior. That means, when your client comes to your therapy, it is a commitment. DBT is the biggest commitment. So when your client comes to therapy, he cannot use his phones, or there cannot be any distraction. There cannot be absence for the treatment, for the therapy sessions for more than 3 times, and that has to be a very valid reason. We will talk about setup quite later, but this is what like therapy interfering behavior. Your client has to be really motivated to be changed. So that is therapy interfering behavior. And decrease quality of life interfering behavior. So what are the things that's interfering client in creating a life that is worth living? So you have to see that sometimes they could be like minor issues, like having some arguments with their partner, with their parents, with their peers. So that is all like like a minor life, like a quality of life interfering behavior. The client could be alcoholic, right? And in DBT, the major thing I wanted to stress is we are not like if we get a client on substance abuse, we are not doing any abstinence model. We are only following harm reduction model. We're not going to tell clients, okay, you should stop drinking now. Like what else we can do? No, nothing like that. Like you drink, but to a limit. And what do you think is best for you? That's what we wanted to encourage client in doing. And increase behavior skills. So you're teaching your client a lot of skills that DBT will underline, and you're going to increase that skills on clients. When they get stressed, okay, what you can do when you get stressed? What do you can do when you feel like you wanted to cut yourself? What you wanted to do when you feel like it is suicidal? So all those skills you're going to teach your client. And that way you're going to create a life that is worth living for your client. So core dialectic in DBT. So this is called the core dialectic, 2 different things you are, joining it together: acceptance and change, right? For example, let us just assume that we have a client who is like self-harming so much, who has a lot of problem with her parents, and who has a broken relationship with her parents basically, and a lot of self-harm. What do you want the client to know? The client to know that you have a broken relationship with your parent. Okay, you know that, and because of that you are self-harming. You should also know that, and you should be able to accept that, and that is your problem. The problem maybe have caused by your parents, maybe from the environment, but right now I have to change. That motivation has to be there from the client. So the client has to accept her problem on a deeper level. Sometimes, clients would just come to you for one day and say, okay, yesterday I had a bad day, I was super angry. That is not acceptance, right? The client has to accept her problem very deep, on a deeper level, and then, focus on change through motivation. So these are the 2 things that we have to balance on therapy to know that the client is really motivated. So you should be able to balance this with the client. There cannot be more acceptance or more change. Anything could bring back. If there is more change, if they're going to change all in one day or in a 1 week, acceptance is not so much. So if they're accepting the problem all the time, okay, I do this, and there is no motivation for the change, they cannot change. So it has to be in a balance. And acceptance and change, I'm not going to go deeper on DBT skills today. I'm going to just talk about, basic skills that we use. So in acceptance, we use basically 2 skills, that is mindfulness and distress tolerance. Mindfulness, we all, would have heard what mindfulness is, or maybe not. So mindfulness is just being aware of the present moment without any judgment, right? Mindfulness is not a meditation. It is just, being aware. Okay, I'm conscious, like I know, like I have common sense that I'm doing this. So that is all about mindfulness. Distress tolerance, managing crisis without worsening the situation, accepting the reality as it is. So if there is any crisis that is coming, the client will be taught a lot of distress tolerance skills that will help the client to accept the situation. Emotional regulation is on change. We have emotional regulation, understanding and reducing the vulnerability to emotion and changing emotions. So the client has to understand the emotions, or basically travel with the emotions. The client cannot get trapped with the emotions and get changed, right? So the client has to understand, I'm experiencing anxiety, and let me experience anxiety in order to change that anxiety. Not I wanted to change that anxiety all at once. It cannot happen. They have to accept and they have to feel it in order to change that. That is emotional regulation. Interpersonal effectiveness, getting needs met, maintaining relationship, increasing self-respect in relationship, right? The client has to feel that I am, worthy in a self relationship. You don't want to have a client who has been in a chronic domestic violence and who has a very abusive partner and feeling it's all good. No, but you have to make your clients understand that your self-worthy is very important in order for you to even change, right? So this is all about acceptance and change. All right. How many sessions in DBT? So DBT is structured in that way, right? The client attends a weekly skills module, and also we also have a group session that the client attend. So the weekly skills class would be a group session and also an individual therapeutic session. That's what I meant. I'm sorry if I slumbered a little bit. So what are the skills that we teach for the client? Is mindfulness, emotional regulation, interpersonal effectiveness, and distress tolerance. So on acceptance and change, we taught all those things. So all these are 4 modules, and under this 4 modules, we have a lot of skills that we teach clients. So these all skills will include homework practice and these skills, and also we'll have a discussion with clients how to improve or use these skills. To participate in DBT skills, a client must also be on an individual therapy with a DBT therapist. That's what I meant. So they have to be on a group session. They should be also with you on an individual therapeutic session. In individual therapy sessions, a client will discuss, all the problematic behaviors, and they will share their problems on a deeper level. And together we can come up with positive solutions, what we can do better. If the client is not feeling comfortable on a group, what you can do to do better. So that's what. So the client has to attend both sessions in order to graduate from the DBT program. We call DBT program as a graduation just because we are teaching them life skills. It's more like teaching. When my clients get finished in DBT program, I basically give them a certificate that I make myself. They're so happy getting that. Sessions in DBT. Okay, so DBT for adolescent is a 24-week intensive program. So it is a commitment. It is just not a commitment for your clients, it's for the therapist too. So there is individual therapy sessions and there is skills group sessions. So basically when we do school like adolescent DBT program, it could be on an outpatient setting in any mental health institution, or it could be at school too. Basically we do in school just because we don't want our youth to come to mental health, and we don't want them to feel stigmatized. So school's more comfortable, it's fun, so we do DBT program in the classroom, so it's more like a teaching session, so they feel it more comfortable there. And also you have your individual therapeutic sessions. It's a 24-week program. Some of the institution here has also, program that's, compressed into 16-week. But I strongly recommend 24-week program just because, that is how they learn all things. I don't want to rush into anything doing with my clients. So this is a model of DBT that we have. So we have DBT and we do the individual therapy, as I explained, and we have skills group, that is a group therapy that we do. We also have a parent group, but basically it's not super active in the school where I do, because some of the clients I have, they don't know, like their parents are not aware that they are getting treatment from me. So we don't have this parent group in a lot of schools. Sometimes we do like a parent session. Parents are welcome to come and join with their kids, or we have a separate parent group. This is a model, but we just excluded the parent group because we don't want our clients feeling uncomfortable when they're talking in group therapy about themselves, right? And we also do phone session with our clients. The clients should know that we are available when we are teaching them crisis survival skills or distress tolerance skills. The client should know that we are available, and when they're crisis or when they are in distress, they call us and ask us, what we can do, what skill can we use, can you tell me? So we have to be available for our clients as well. And there is also consultation team for therapists. Why we have consultation team? Just because as a therapist, we also get burnt out. It is a 24-week program. So we wanted to share with our, fellow colleagues, and we wanted to discuss. And if there is any difficulty behavior, what you can do and what you cannot do, you have to be able to discuss. Then I said DBT is a 24-week program, and it is, it is a 24-week program. And when you said the commitment is also among therapists, there are times, life situations happen even for therapists. There could be some emergency. So we should have 2 members doing DBT. One will be the lead and one will be the co-lead. So the lead will, teach all the skills to the clients, and the co-lead will be, following. And if the lead cannot attend the program, cannot do a session, a group session or something happens, the co-lead can take over. So 2 members should be always on the DBT team just to keep it running. And moreover, your clients are going to look up on you. Just like, little kids look up on their parents as a model, your clients are going to look up on you as a model. So you don't want to be late for your therapeutic sessions, or you don't want to, be absent, or you don't want to postpone your days. You have to be just mindful, just make sure you organize a vacation, or, everything, for 24 weeks. Okay, I'm available and I can do it. The same thing in skills group, what we teach is mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. And again, under these skills, we have a lot of skills that we teach to our clients. Class structure in skills group, that is in group therapy. So each class is structured for 80 minutes. So we'll have mindfulness for 5 minutes. We'll have like a mindfulness session. We'll do some activity that the youth like to do. And we'll have a homework review. So every week, we give homework to the clients. The homework is just not for our clients, it's for us too. The lead and the co-lead are expected to do the homework and come back and share with the clients. Like DBT is a therapy, but more, it's a more, it's a more colloquial form of therapy. You're not doing like a traditional, sitting and talking thing, but you're like the therapist is also more involved in doing therapy. And there are situations, like you can share your experience too. Like, okay, I've gone through this situation in my lifetime and I use this skill, and you can share that with your clients too. And in every group therapy session, we teach a new lesson that is 35 to 45 minutes. And based on the new lesson, we give them homework. And the next week, they have to come back with the homework and tell us, what skill they used, how they used, and was it effective, was it not effective. And at the end, we do a lesson summary and assignment for homework minutes. That is 5 to 7 minutes. Individual therapy structure, it is 20 to 30 minutes per week. And even in individual therapy, we give them homework that is called diary card. So basically in the diary card, we will have some target behaviors that we concentrate. For example, the client's coming and telling you, okay, when I'm angry, I break things. So your target behavior is don't break things. When you're angry, you don't hurt people, or anything. Just know that you're angry and you have to travel with your emotions. So that is what is diary card all about. The client has to do a diary card, share about skills group, and share anything in a deeper level that I mentioned you already. Talk about therapy interfering behavior. If the client has any therapy interfering behavior, like disturbing other members of the class and using the phone or being not motivated, you have to talk about that to your clients. Some of the examples are coming late to class, absence, diverting other participants in class. That's what I said. So, all these things you have to address with your clients. Telephone consultation. Every client has a chance to receive immediate consultation with their therapist if the skills are not working, right? So the clients can call you and say, okay, Nivya, I think the mindfulness skills are not working for me. The distress tolerance is not working for me. What can I do? Is there anything that I can do? So you have to talk with your client. That is very important. Shapes appropriate help seeking and self-reliance, right? The client is asking you for help and you should be able to help them. And just make sure you're marking boundaries on phone calls. You don't want your youth calling 3 a.m. in the morning or in the middle of the night. For example, Like I have a lot of youth on my DBT program. So I've told them, okay, I'm available only from 8 to 4, possibly till 5 only on Thursdays. And I'm sorry, I cannot talk to you after that. So just make sure everything is fine. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If a client is really motivated to change, they will definitely do that, right? All right. So DBT consultation team, this is for us, for therapists. Group therapy for therapist, right? So it is more about venting, what you feel about the group. If you're a new DBT graduates, you'll have mentors helping you. Team supervises each other. So, we supervise each other. We see, okay, what we can do better. Is there anything that I'm not doing right? And consultant to provide supervision for new DBT graduates. So if you're a new DBT graduate, if you're just graduating, if you should have a therapy, you should have a group therapy with your colleagues, or with with those who have already graduated from DBT, in order to have that consultation. And if you're finding it hard, if you cannot do any lesson, they'd be able to help you. Three minds in DBT. I thought I shouldn't go more onto skill, but I couldn't resist talking about three minds in DBT. So in DBT talks about, like we have like three different kind of mind. Very simply, we have this two mind. I should say, when you're, super high, when your emotions are like highly jacked up, what you basically do? Maybe, you break things, or you're angry, or you do something that's stupid. That is your emotional mind, right? Or sometimes people might think, okay, like this doesn't work, or it just basically acts only on logic, right? Okay, I don't want to talk to you, and that's it, right? You're not dealing with your emotions. You're just like talking rationally and done, right? You don't want to be too rational. You don't want to be too emotional, right? You don't want it to balance this together. That is dialectics. That is all about wise mind. You're using your mind that will be able to balance between your rational mind and emotional mind, and act accordingly. What you can do, for example, if there is a death in the family, okay, you can cry, like, okay, you can mourn. That's what you wanted to do. That's your wise mind talking. But you cannot go break things. You cannot go kill somebody because somebody has died. You cannot do those things. So that is your wise mind, explaining, okay, what you can do, what you cannot do. What state of mind are we in usually? You never know. So, DBT will help you to, understand what state of mind you are in actually. Basically, I should say, as a therapist, my life has changed incredibly after doing DBT. So it's just not for the clients, it's for everybody. DBT courses, there are a lot of DBT courses that is available online. So the DBT skills group, that's basically, a very small group. They teach only DBT skills in that. That is a 6-week program. A therapist can go into that. But if you're graduating from DBT skills group, you cannot be a lead. You can only be a co-lead. Or you can teach only skills to clients, but you cannot have an individual therapy with your clients. So basically, you can be a co-lead. When your lead is not available, you can lead the session. That's what it means. So that is a DBT skills. That's for 6-week program. And DBT foundational program, that is a 16-week program. I'm sorry. So you can do the DBT foundational. It is a full program that talks about skills, and there is also individual therapy, what you can do, what you cannot do. And it talks about skills, dairy card, homework, everything. It is quite good. I first did the foundation and I did the intensive. Basically, intensive and foundational are the same according to me, but intensive will talk more on a deeper level about suicide prevention. So that is about intensive, and that is also for 16 weeks. In both foundation and intensive, you will be the co-lead, and you can also be the co-lead. If you have other member who have done foundational program, you both can join together and start a DBT group. And one can be the lead, one can be the co-lead. You can mix and vice versa. When you first hear the word dialectic, it could be a newer thing for you, and all this information, whatever I talk to you, could be a lot of information, and I don't want you guys to overwhelm with all the information. DBT is a very straightforward program. As I said, it involves CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. If you're already aware of CBT, DBT is very easier. It's just it's more structured, I should say, than CBT. So school-based DBT program in Nova Scotia. So what I do basically here, so DBT program was started in CEC. CEC is the school where I work in 2009, and it's been successful 11 years. It's been a very effective program for youth, I should say. The youth love it. Sometimes, you get youth, there's a lot of therapy interfering behavior, but when you deal with it, they just love the group so much. Provincial DBT committee is looking at expanding the program to more remote rural schools in Nova Scotia. We don't have DBT program running in all the schools. We have only schools that's, in certain jurisdiction, but we are looking at developing program in all the schools so that, youth will be able to access, and the school social worker would be able to deliver the program to the clients. So as you can see here, this is for since 2010 to 2017. So the red area, says depicts that before DBT, like how much suicide and self-harm we had. That was from 2010 to 30. There was a lot of behaviors, they couldn't manage. And when we started the program in 2009, so it's between 2010 and 13, there was a significant decrease, a lot of decrease in suicide and self-harm. And 2013 to 15, you could see it was pretty okay. And 2015 to 17, it's pretty good. And we haven't assessed this year, but I should say it has decreased so much. The clients have, had a very good chance of managing their stress and anxiety from DBT program. Student statements, like what are your client statements? Like what do they say? Thanks for helping me to quit smoking and cut myself. This is one of my clients who said me. And I love this group, and it was hard road to travel, but I nailed it. Thanks for all the skills that helped me. And can I get more DBT, please? That was one of my favorite clients, like recently graduated in 2019. She loves the program, and as I said, there's significant decrease in behavior, and they will be able to use their emotions properly. What therapists think about DBT? What I think about DBT is a very good program, and DBT is not for everybody. As I mentioned earlier, people who have problem with their emotions, relationship, anxiety, binge eating, or any eating disorders. We're not going to incorporate DBT in schizophrenia or other major mental health issues, just because it could not be effective. But if they can manage with the medications, we can always use DBT as a backup for them. So that's what I think about DBT. As I also mentioned earlier, DBT has not only changed the life of my clients, DBT has changed myself and my personal relationship with my family on a much greater level, right? So that's what I think about DBT program. Is DBT right for your client? If your client has ADHD, it could be the best program. I have lots of kids who have ADHD on the DBT program. Even though, I don't strongly recommend ADHD medications. This is me. It could be a lot of people who recommend in the session, but I'm sorry about that. That's just me. I don't recommend. But DBT was super effective for one of my youth. I'm going to talk about my client example on next slide. So it was just, it helped him so much. Any eating disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, as I told you. Major depressive disorder include treatment-resistant major depression and chronic depression. DBT could be quite effective, but you should know that, for major depressive disorder, you should be able to decrease the life-threatening behavior. Like in the hierarchy I talked about, like if they're self-harming or if they're suicidal, you should be able to treat that and come into next level. You don't want to jump into change all at once. You want them to accept and realize, and then you have to travel with them all 24 weeks in order to achieve the goal. post-traumatic stress disorder. So if your client has been receiving other treatments like EMDR or any other treatment for traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, you could also use DBT for them. They could be on both the programs. I have a client who has PTSD and who's on an EMDR group. EMDR therapy, also on a DBT group. So she is functioning pretty well. And substance use disorder. Again, for substance use disorder, we are only going to talk about harm reduction. It's not an abstinence model. And okay, so before doing some activity, I just wanted to talk about one of my client. So when I graduated from DBT a couple of years ago, my first client was in a very bad shape when he came to me. He was an adult male who had problems with relationship and who was in and out of jail all the time. And he had anxiety disorders and major self-harming and a lot of substance abuse. And so whenever the substance abuse happens, his emotions jack up, right? Like he breaks things, reckless driving, goes to jail and come back. So that was happening to him all the time, and he couldn't, like he was on a different kind of group therapy, but he was referred to me for DBT individual sessions and group therapy. It turned out to be pretty good. At first, it was very challenging for him to accept, okay, I'm drinking, I cannot stop drinking. So I told him, I don't want you to stop drinking. I don't want you to stop use substances. I just want you to think what is right for you. If you just wanted to, drink a little bit or use substance, that is okay, that you can manage. That is fine, right? So every time when the client comes to me, we do a chain analysis of what happened. Okay, when you drank, this happened. So after this, what happened? When you went to jail, like, how did you feel? So he was also abandoned from not seeing his son because he was always in and out of jail. So he was not able to see his son and girlfriend. So that was a bigger problem as well. So we were able to, set smaller goals and, say, what, it's okay. And the group therapy, initially, it was very hard for him to even concentrate or sit in a group, talk before, a bunch of people about his problem. It wasn't very hard. It was very hard for him because he had anxiety disorders. So I taught him a lot of skills that could be used to reduce anxiety, mindfulness skills. So in mindfulness, we have a lot of other skills, as I mentioned, distress tolerance skills, when he feels like he wants to drink, what he can do. Crisis survival skill, like when he drinks and when his emotions jacks up, that is a crisis. So he goes into reckless driving, or he goes in, like into fight somebody, he goes into jail. So what we can do to prevent that is crisis survival skills. And interpersonal effectiveness, what you can do to get a life that is worth living. That is also, building your interpersonal relationship with your son. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to be with his son and have a happy life. So what you can do to get there. So basically, you are traveling with your client throughout the journey, right? And when your client is able to achieve that, you're leaving him there. The classic example is, I will always tell all my new DBT graduates is, for example, if you're taking somebody who wants to do fishing, right? So you take them to fishing, but you have no idea how to fish, right? Okay, so you have to just use this and okay, the fish comes out, but it doesn't work there. So fishing has few nuances that you have to do. So basically, as a therapist, you should know how to fish. Like, you should know what you can do better, what are the skills that you can use to do fishing. So also you're traveling with your client and basically helping them to fish. You don't want to stand with your client all the time and fish for him. You wanted to stand behind and just let them know, okay, you can do this, you can do that. And you wanted to leave your client sometime alone, just so that he can fish all good. Right? So that is how. So without knowing how to fish, without knowing how to manage your own emotions or, your own anxiety, you cannot be able to do DBT with your clients. So you have to know how to manage yourself and also your family. You have to have that interpersonal connectivity in order to live a better life for yourself and be the model for your clients. Let us do a small mindfulness activity. as I said, mindfulness is not anything like a meditation. It's not anything spiritual. Mindfulness is just, being aware of the situation. So now I wanted everybody to just take a moment and, feel all your senses. So we'll do this, 5 senses meditation. So basically, first I wanted you to, look around and just notice 5 different things that is around you. Sometimes you will notice that there is one different thing. For example, there could be a crack on the wall, or there could be a little thing that's lying on the floor which you never noticed, right? You're just being aware. Just notice all the 5 things that you can see. Once you're done with that, now we are coming to smell. Just try to smell 3 different things from your environment. It could be anything that somebody is cooking, or you could smell different things. Just 3 different things that you can smell. Once you're done with that, we'll go ahead with 3 different things that you can hear. Sometimes, you could hear a vehicle that's just going outside of your house, or somebody could be making something, the sound of a mixer or anything. Just try to define 3 different things. Okay, when you're done with that, try to taste 2 different things in your mouth. You don't want to eat anything, but just try to see what you can taste or what you can feel in your mouth. At the end, I want you to feel something that's that's touching you. It could be your feet touching the ground, or your hands on the desk. Just feel one thing that you can sense through your skin. Good, that's all done. So so this is one of the mindfulness activity. So when I explained about a group therapy session, we start with a mindfulness session with our clients. So we do a 5 minutes mindfulness activity. We do many activities. This is one of that. And basically it is very important to be being aware of your own situation. Sometimes we are just caught up on the past or on the future. We are not living on the present. So that is very important. Just know that what you're doing now is the present, right? If for example, if I'm presenting right now, I'm right here and presenting. My mind is not wandering all the time, somewhere going around. So that is about mindfulness. Mindfulness is not, you have so many things in the mind. It's just, you have one thing in the mind. That's mindfulness, right? And so that is it about DBT. I did a very short and brief presentation. I don't want to do too much on skills because it will be too much. It will be too overwhelming. I can send the slides to probably somebody who can share with everybody if you want to. And if you have any questions, I'm here. So
Yes. I think now we can have questions. We have our own students who is coordinator who is now ready to ask question. Is it ready?
Yes, sir.
Please, yes, go with me. Please proceed, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, participants. Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah.
There's a question from Ms. Vishaka.
Yeah.
In DBT, do we directly tell client about the problem?
You have to sit and analyze the problem with your client. You can actually, describe, to your client, okay, this is your problem behavior. Can we change it? You can do that. For example, the client, which I explained before, I told my client, you know what, you have problem with your anxiety. You cannot, talk to a different people. You cannot look another person in your eye. What we can do, that's what you explain you can explain the problem to your clients. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is from Deepa Banerjee. Is it applicable with clients with intellectual disability?
It cannot be. I guess I haven't done any DBT with clients who have intellectual disability, just because DBT requires a lot of understanding and motivation, or like they have to understand all these skills, and it could be possible. It could be possible. Like, you don't want to have somebody who is intellectually deficit to be in a group, just because they'll not be able to cope up, or 24 weeks might not be effective. Some people do a 32-week program that could be more applicable for people who are intellectually deficit. If you have a lot of members who are intellectually deficit, you can put them in one group and you can run a program, definitely.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next question. How can we use DBT with ADHD children?
As I mentioned earlier, with children, DBT is not quite effective. They're not going to, be present for all 24 weeks, or you cannot have your kids who are younger than 17 or like 15. I would not recommend DBT personally, but you can take bits and pieces from DBT. For example, mindfulness skills. That there are lots of skills that fall under mindfulness that could be used for kids with ADHD. I work with kids too who are younger than 15, from 4 to 15. So I use a lot of skills from DBT and use it on them. But you cannot do like a DBT program with them.
Next question, ma'am. What kind of homework is given to the clients?
The homework are based on the skills. Whatever skills you teach your clients, the homework is given based on that. For example, if you're teaching a mindfulness skill for your client, you want your client to go back and use some mindfulness skills on their life. Like this week, where did you use mindfulness skills? That's what is our homework about.
Next question, ma'am. Will DBT help the social workers in the time of burnout?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, we are talking about emotional regulation. So when your emotion jacks up, like when you have too many clients and you're stressed up, what skill you can use, that's DBT will give you an opportunity. Definitely.
Next question. How will you maintain 24 weeks of session when there is a holiday in between of 2 weeks?
So if there is a holiday, we let them know that the holiday is coming. So we organize it. So for example, if I'm designing a DBT program, so if it falls on a Monday, so we tell them ahead before even starting the program. So July 1st will be holiday. So we'll have a session next week. So we just tell them. So it is, it is organized even before we know the holiday is all coming.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. What are all the activities you give to the client, adolescent clients, during the first session to observe all the problems?
To observe all the problems, basically mindfulness, we start with mindfulness activity, and that, like, we do only one activity, that is mindfulness. Other than that, we teach them skills. So there is no activity involved other than mindfulness activity in DBT.
Next question, ma'am. What kind of therapy will work on children who have a habit of using bad language and also having the habit of hitting other children if they get angry? So
you have to teach the skills anger management program, and There is a wonderful program that I use. I think I have it right here. We're talking about DBT, but this is a different thing. This is called 123 Magic. I use it on all my clients who are younger than 15, who swear at people or who have a problem in managing their anger. Teach them anger management skills.
Thank you, ma'am. Is DBT good for depression?
It is. It is good for depression, but you just have to make sure you're solving the, like you're decreasing the life-threatening problem. Suicide, self-harming, you wanted to decrease that first and then come into the upper level.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. What are all the difficulties in face-to-face session and phone call session?
In face-to-face session, you will share on a deeper level. In face-to-face session, I haven't faced any difficulties. In phone sessions, sometimes you just prank you. You should know your client much better. If you have kids, if you know your kids better, you will know your clients better too. You will be able to understand your clients. If they're just pranking you, okay, Nivya, like I've had a couple of clients calling me saying, okay, Nivya, I think I'm in a deep distress. Like, what can I do? Okay, use this. It's not effective. Okay, I'll talk to you later. You should be able to manage that boundary with your client. That is very important. So that is all about phone call session. But if you know your client well, you will be able to manage it better.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. In case of juvenile, how can a therapist find the problems if the client is not telling the fact what he or she did?
It is so with the juvenile clients, it's so hard. Like I used to work in a jail setting before with adult men, and it is quite a problem. Like nobody wants to admit their crime or nobody wants to admit their guilt, right? Everybody wants to be guilt-free. So in that case, you want your client first to accept that, okay, so this is your problem, this is what you did, okay, if you did something bad, okay, why did you do this, and what we can do better. Even before starting DBT, you have to let your client know, like the client have to understand their problem, then only you can start DBT. You cannot start DBT and then start analyzing their problem. You have to first understand your client and then come to DBT.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. Strategies to develop distress tolerance.
Strategies to develop distress tolerance. There is a lot of skills that comes under distress tolerance that will be taught in a DBT program. I cannot do it right now. It is a 16-week program, so you can imagine how long it is. There is a lot of strategy, lot of skills that comes under distress tolerance.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. Will DBT help people to overcome from drug addiction?
Drug addiction, substance abuse, yes. And again, it's not an abstinence model, it's just a harm reduction. We don't want to tell our clients, you cannot drink, you cannot smoke, or you cannot use crack or anything like that. You just have to tell your client, what is important. You just have to work on the goal. So yes, it could be, but again, harm reduction.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. Can we use DBT in an organizational setup?
You can use it in an organizational setup. I don't know what you were asking about organization. Is it a mental health or is it like a HR or industry kind of a setting? Because it can help with anybody, but you should be able to have a group therapy. You should have a place and, like so that you can manage your group there. And you should also have an individual therapeutic room, and like if you have all the things set up, you can use it anywhere. I use it in a school. School is a kind of institution, so it could be used in any organization, I guess. Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Is it effective for the treatment with disaster victims?
I'm sorry, can you come again?
Is it effective for treatment with disaster victims?
Yes, yeah. So disaster victims would be more like PTSD, post-traumatic. It could be very useful. And again, you have to treat the PSL level that is decreasing life-threatening behaviors.
Next question, ma'am. In adolescence period, most of the adolescents try to compare himself or herself with other peers, which creates self-harming behavior. Then how can a therapist help?
DBT will show you the way. So a lot of adolescents will fall into the trap of comparing their parents with other parents, or comparing themselves with others. Especially eating disorder could be one of the classic example of that. So DBT will show you the way. So crisis survival skills and distress tolerance skills would be very effective in treating them. In case if you're just working with adolescent, and if you're just working on self-harm and stuff, you could just do like a DBT 6-week program. You don't even have to have even if you do like a 6-week program, you don't have to run it. You don't have to tell your client that you're doing DBT, but you can take bits and pieces from the skills and you can teach your clients.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. As it is a 24-week intensive program, what is the amount of transference and counter transference seen within the therapist and the group or individual?
Like when you're working with your client for 24 weeks, you know your client better. It's almost like a family member, right? You think all about your client and you do what your client. But you should be able to know that you are a therapist and he or she is your client, and you should be able to make that boundary just so that all transference and counter transference doesn't happen. You don't want your client to be too much dependent on you. As I said, when you're taking your clients for fishing, you should be the one who teaches him or her to fish, but you are not the one who is fishing for your client. So you should just make sure you have that boundary. You teach your client, and that's it, and that is your role, right?
Yes, ma'am. Next question. In group therapy, all clients have similar problem. How do you form the group?
It is very simple if all clients have a similar problem. Just because you just have to teach them the skill and let them know, okay, okay, so you have this problem. We'll talk about the skill today, and if there is a lot of therapy interfering behavior, that has to be done. If all the members in the group are not interested in therapy, or if there is a therapy interfering behavior, that needs to be treated first, because you don't want your group to fall apart. So you have to talk to your clients in order to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Has there been any difficulty during the termination process at the end of the program with the youth? Any experience with relation to this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was very hard. Like the youth, whomever I work with, they don't want to break the program. They don't want it to, they still send me messages. They try to call me. I don't talk to them. I don't reply them back. I know they're doing fine. Sometimes, they just wave hi, they send you cards, and it is quite hard, even as a therapist, all you wanted to do is, create a life that is worth living for your client. You're traveling with your client, and if you see your client, right there, okay, and just bye, you're coming back. But there's kind of, you're also happy, but also, missing this clients. And that happens. We are all humans, and that happens to everybody. So, it will be quite hard, at the beginning, but, when I started DBT program with the youth, it was hard at the beginning, but, right now, when we are done, and that's it. You just hold the good memories in your heart. That's all you want.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Please share some of the DBT program available for the students.
Available for the students. So there are, so I don't know in India if people are teaching DBT. I'm not really aware about that. But basically, I did DBT course online. I'm not sure, like, it's students you meant like school students or like students of social work. I just want to know that. I don't know who asked the question. So I'll just answer both. So you'll take that. So students who are like social workers or, who wanted to do DBT, basically you take 16-week program or a 6-week program online. You could do it online. You should have a mentor who should be able to supervise you. So there should be somebody who is graduated from DBT program or running a program successfully. And they could be from anywhere around the world, like somebody in Australia, somebody in New Zealand, or anybody can supervise you online. You can do that. That's for students. And if you're asking students for like students in school, like whatever I explained in my slide, that is a DBT program that we do in schools.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question. How to apply for profession as a therapist in UK? What are all the qualifications required?
I don't know about the, about things in UK. I think you should have to be a registered social worker or, psychologist. I think have to be registered with your council in order to do DBT. Also, you should graduate from DBT program. That could be anything, like if you wanted to run a DBT program, you should have somebody running a DBT program who could be your mentor. And, basically you just do the program and start in a setup. I don't know if you can be a private therapist in UK. I have no idea about that. But you could still do it based on your professional council in UK, I guess.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Client with phobia, how will you bring the acceptance and change?
Client with phobia. So again, like acceptance and change, there are a lot of skills that falls under phobia. And with phobia, what basically we do is we teach them a lot of mindfulness skills. I've had a client who had phobias. So we did a lot of mindfulness skills with him, and it is quite hard for them to even accept. Again, you have to treat them from a base, from a bottom level. You don't want it to tell them, okay, you have to accept that you have phobia, right? You don't go and tell them right that, okay, so what happens when you get phobia? Like what kind of like do you get butterflies on your stomach? Does your hands shiver? Do you slumber? Or like does something happen? What happens? So we wanted to talk about all the physical things that happens or that is associated with phobia. And then from there you have to go on acceptance, and then from there you have to encourage your client to change. So before even, as I mentioned before even entering into DBT, you have to talk to your client about, what phobia they have, what kind of reactions they are having. And if it is on a, if it is like a, like a classic phobia, or, like a super good phobia, or, if they have a very bad phobia, they have to be treated with medications in order for them to regulate the emotions, right? You don't want your client to, jump up and high, and then come back to you for therapy. It's not going to be effective. They have to be emotionally stable in order to be able to accept and also to change in any kind of disorders. Just not with phobia, but any kind of disorders. You want your client to, able to manage their emotions. So you're going to teach them that they should be able to understand that. So they should be in that state of mind.
Yes, ma'am. Next question, ma'am. How is the group DBT happening during this pandemic?
Okay, so we do through Zoom. It's been quite successful. I've had a couple of youth not showing up. So, but it's quite good. Youth, especially those who are going to schools, they like school setup. They want live sessions. It's quite good. It's not that bad, I should say. The attendance is quite good. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. What is the duration of one session in DBT?
One session. So basically the group therapy session is for 80 minutes. So as I explained before, we teach them all those things in mindfulness, and we do homework, and we discuss about past homework, and then we do summary and everything. So that is a group session for 80 minutes. Individual therapy session is usually 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes it could take like 40 minutes. So just make sure you're available for an hour for your clients. That's what you want.
Next question, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be helpful a DBT course in online?
Yeah, it is quite helpful. I did my DBT online. I did my 6-week skills program, and I did my intensive and foundational online. It is quite effective. Yep.
Ma'am, could you speak more of your background and how it is working in Canada?
More of my background. Okay, so already Satyamurthy said. So I'm a MSW graduate from Loyola, and I moved to Canada, and so I have my registered social work license. So in order to be a social worker in Canada, you should have a license to practice. And so I work in a clinical setting in mental health and addictions at Nova Scotia Health Authority. So I basically work in an outpatient mental health unit for child and youth. I started my career in Canada working in a correctional facility, that's the prison, with adult men. I worked there for around 4 years. And I moved into child and youth just because I wanted a different experience. It is quite good so far. And so working in working in Canada is quite good. Social workers are highly respected, and that is it. Like I want to keep it short. I don't know what else you meant my background. And that's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
ma'am, my name is Doris. I actually asked that question.
Okay.
So I actually wanted to know. I'm sorry to the team. I don't want to butt in, but I wanted to ask, how is it like with cultural? Is there a cultural difference, and like how did you interact? They are culturally little different, right? So as a therapist, did you like a challenge while talking to youth in Canada and like their background and stuff? Like how did you connect with? Like did they ever come across saying ki maybe because we are Indians, maybe we are not able to understand much and things like that?
Basically nothing like that. You just start working, and there's a big time cultural shock. When you see all your youth, sometimes like sometimes things are not common in India that is common here. So you just have to be able to accept that. Like every culture is different. You have to be respectable to each and every culture. Like kids age 15 or 16 would have boyfriends or girlfriends going to their home, and that's all common. That was not common for me, but that's common here. So I just have to be able to accept, okay, it's fine, like that's all I want. And it wasn't a problem with my client at all. My clients were all okay, being coming from a different country and a different background. All my clients adjusted well with me, I guess. So like I had a couple of issues with working in a prison with adult men, because it's a completely different background. Like prison is a complete different thing here. It's not like in India. So it was quite difficult at the beginning for a couple of months. But after that, it all worked out great. And it is so far, touch wood, it's great.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. No worries.
Next question, ma'am. Could you tell more about distress tolerance skills?
I certainly can. I'll probably going to steal 2 more sessions, which is going to happen next or tomorrow, I guess. It's quite long. There's a lot of distress tolerance skills. Example of distress tolerance, I'll teach. I'll probably talk about one skill. We have something called a TIP skill, TIPP. T stands for temperature. I stands for intense physical exercise, and P stands for paced breathing, and another P that stands for progressive muscle relaxation. So what is TIP skill? Temperature. So when you get super angry or super anxiety, it is, physiologically, it is proved that your temperature goes up, right? You're hot, sometimes like your face will become red when you're angry, or when you cry, when you break things, right? So temperature, like what you basically do, just take a big bowl, put some ice on it, and just put your face on it, right? So your body just cools down, so so you can do much better after just coming down, and then you can talk to your emotions and deal with it. Temperature and intense physical exercises. Sometimes, people who are angry, they like to go for running, or they like to jump up and high. That is okay. That's all you wanted to do. When you're angry, you don't break things, you don't hurt people. But if you wanted to jump and run, that is fine. It's a good physical exercise. And paced breathing. When you see, if you look at our parents or grandparents, like my parents, grandparents do it all the time. When they're like super angry or super stressed out, they do like, we do it all the time. Like sometimes we ourselves do it. So you just do like, paced breathing, like just take a deep breath in and breathe out. And, when things settle down, you can deal with it. You don't want to deal it when it is high up here. You just want to bring it down. Okay, I can deal with you right now. That's what you want to do. And the last one is the relaxation. You just tense your muscles and maybe just relax and just feel how it feels. And once you calm down, you deal with it. So that is one of the distress tolerance skills. We have a lot in distress tolerance. So I can only talk about one right now.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. How do you know that clients don't need more sessions?
Very simple. If the client is not interested in the session, if the client's not showing up, the client's absent, the client's not motivated, the client doesn't need more sessions. And the DBT is a 24-week program. So within 24 weeks, you have to be able to complete, and the clients are committed for 24 weeks. And after that, they graduate. And if they still need more session after that, you can put them in another DBT program. Like they have to start from the first, or you can just carry on with your individual sessions, not DBT, but you could do like CBT or EFT, whatever is good for your clients.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Could you please tell the process about getting license in Canada? Do we have to go for a course in Canada too?
So I can only talk about social work graduate. I don't know about the psychologist. So if you're a social worker, you have to get registered yourself with the Canadian Social Worker Association. You could do that from India. You have to send your transcripts and other stuff to CASW, and you have to get. So after you get license from them, you have to move to Canada. So that's a big process. So you can just go on cic.gc.ca. Once again, cic.gc.ca, and there's a process that you have to follow. Once you come to Canada, you can decide where you're going to settle. Nova Scotia, Ontario, anywhere. So every province will have a different social work college, like a council, and you have to get registered with them. Basically, in Nova Scotia, when I got registered myself for the first time, I have to be. I was not a complete social worker, not a registered social worker. I was a social work candidate. I was under somebody who was a mentor for me for 6 months. And then, now I do private practice. So when you become a registered social worker, you can do private practice or anything. There is no need for any course, but if you're willing to, you can do that.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. How DBT will help for autism kids?
For autism kids, like higher spectrum autism, you do a lot of visual schedule and that. Like for kids, as I said, it's quite hard to work with kids. But if you have, adults who are able to manage their emotions well, they can be on the program. So it's not a big deal. I have a couple of clients who are autistic and they're doing better.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.